Okay, great. So this is our second meeting for the Government Transition Advisory Committee work plan work group. And so we'll be meeting from 12 to 1 p.m. today. And then we have, we have Bill, Kinsey, Terry Harris, Money, Rewall, and Zach Curl here. So I'm going to go over our agenda. It's good to see you, Money. And then we'll go from there. And then we have Win first as an observer to the work plan work group. And so for our work groups, we don't have public comment, but the public are welcome to come and observe and take part in our meeting. So let's see. So we're here at the welcome. I hope everyone feels like they're welcome. And then for 45 minutes, we're really going to dive into the work plan that I had sent you all, and really trying to improve clarity and completeness of the draft. And when I say that, I'm hoping what we can do is really just make sure all of the major tasks are there, because I think the intention of sort of at this stage of the work plan is to just make sure we're putting pen to paper on all the things that GTAC needs to do. And then as staff, what we can do is kind of put the timelines on there to make sure we can meet that, and then have a work plan that we can turn around to you all to then review again. And then from there, we have several next steps, including, I want to know where you all think we should, the next steps we need to have to complete the work plan. We have around 5 minutes to do an update at the GTAC meeting on Tuesday to let folks know kind of where we are at the process this process. And then kind of what you see as what the committee is going to be needing to be able to review and adopt this work plan. And so, Bobby just got here as well. And then we'll be done. And so I just want to recognize the very, accelerated timeline we are on to try to complete this. And so I wanted to see if we could just have 5 minutes. Hey, Bobby, perfect timing. We're just getting started here. I was actually going to see what folks thought about having 5 minutes to review the work plan and reading other people's comments. And then what we'll do from there is then kind of go into global comments in terms of what are your general insights around the plan. I think Terry, for example, you had some good organizational ideas that I really love and I want us to talk through. And then we can go into each section, see if we're missing any major tasks, and then talking about next steps. So that's my proposal of our plan. So review the stuff, get global comments, and then review each section of the plan together. Does that sound good?
Yeah, June, I'm curious if, just because we've only got an hour and we're gonna touch on all of the little like suggested edits and the like, if maybe as part of that we just kind of have the author of the suggested edits just provide a high level overview, then rather than spending the 5 minutes of trying to read this whole document. I don't know. That's just a proposal. Don't
I think let's put that out there. How about we instead go through each section, and each person who was kind of assigned to review that section, talk about it, and then ask for comments there. I saw Terry give a head nod. Anybody else have an opinion about that?
I'm okay with that, June. I apologize. For some reason, I have it on my personal calendar that we were meeting today at 2. So I haven't gone through my edits, but just glancing at it when you first sent it over, I can tell you, I can kind of give my opinion on it. So we can definitely go through each one. I think would be the best use of our time.
Great. I love it. We're all making decisions already. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to stop sharing here and then reshare the draft.
June, may I ask you a question? I just noticed in chat that Wynn asked, as a member of the public, how can she see the plan?
Yes.
I don't know if the link that Terry sent works for her.
Let me see.
It's password protected as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this.
I was just going to lurk, but
Oh, Wynn, we love that you're here. Okay. So let's do this. I am actually, what I'm gonna do right now, Win, is if you just drop your email in the chat so I can just forward you the document for now, because I need to post it onto our website as a PDF. And so let me just forward it to you right now, and then I'll post it online right after this meeting. Does that work?
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, so while I send this to Win, I'm wondering if we could start, I think start here with community engagement, and Terry, your comment, because I think that your comment helps kind of frame it up pretty well. And while I do that, I'm gonna while you explain your comment there, I'm gonna send this to Win. So floor is yours, Terry.
Win, I hope you just do more than lurk, and if you want to participate, it's fine by me. Your comments at some of our earlier meetings were really good. Okay, so my comment here is, if this is a work plan, in thinking about it after reading through it, we only have like two kinds of work, right? We have engagement work and advice work. And I think the engagement plan is largely wrapped up in the plan that Julia did for the whole transition. Our work is sort of built in there. We might have identified some additional tasks, but that's a good place for just engagement. Zach is adding more things here. I think that's right. Requests for information too, but it just seemed to me that the work plan would be to put our advice work and our request for information work, I guess, in advance of advice on a calendar and in these categories that June has identified, A through H. And that is one way of organizing it, yes. So that was the only suggestion, but I don't want to make work by reorganizing all this stuff if all we really need to do is get the tasks and deliverables or whatever out.
I mean, I think Terry, sort of what I'm hearing is it's something that, like, when I read your comment and then I was doing more work planning, I was like, yes, we should do this, which is, I think there's pieces of GTAC's work where you all are engaging folks, and there's that other piece where you're educating folks on things that have already been done, etc. And you have separate needs around how staff and GTAC supports each other in the community education work that you all are doing. And then there's this other side where where you all are advising and we're engaging the public in some critical kind of questions. So I really like that idea of kind of separating the community education pieces of the work that you all are doing with the advising hat, and then the other things that are in the advising hat. So in either one too, y'all can request for more information around the education piece, or engaging folks in additional information that you might need from GTAC to engage people. So I think that is a thing that I don't think is more work. I think it'll make our work easier in thinking about how we support each other in doing it. And so I see head nods for like, okay, yeah, let's separate community education type of work from advising work to then be able to like make sure we're doing what we need to do.
So,
Yeah.
June, where does that take you? Does that reorganize the work plan into two categories?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess, we have two kinds of work. We should have two plans for that work, maybe. Ultimately, the part of what I worried about is in our sections A through H here. Some of these we're going to have work groups or subcommittees, and some of them we won't. And it might be just better to lump the types of work, because then we can identify which groups or who does it more honestly. I don't know. But I do think it's a decent way of organizing work in a work plan.
Zach, do you have anything?
But yeah, I think it's generally a support of what Terry is suggesting, but maybe like trying to just parrot it out in my own words. I think what we have here, what we're going through is identifying the specific tasks or deliverables that once we all agree upon them, we could timestamp and or think about the like time it would take to do that work. And then this is what my interpretation of Monty's suggestion at the beginning is like, what would be really fantastic is if we could plot this into like a Gantt chart so that we're looking month to month and we know, okay, this is like as a group with this meeting coming up or like a code meeting or something, we need to learn more about this piece of code. But we also maybe have a specific request of the city that we can then make formal, and it will help draft that agenda. I know that probably Julie has this maybe up here when she was originally defining the schedule, but it would be really helpful as a informational tool to the rest of the GTAC and also for the GCAP to like work with that, because there might be things that we'll have to drop off or identify a subcommittee or a work group to accomplish. And so I see this as like, let's identify the roles, responsibilities, and tasks of GTAC and then mimic kind of the way that the city has organized itself with the projects of the elections and the governance, you know, those two Gantt charts with bars and a calendar so that we can kind of organize ourselves that way.
That seems solid. I saw some head nods from Money. So I just want to reflect back what I'm hearing from you, Zach, is let's like you hear the feedback around like the separating of community education and advising. And what if we now kind of pivot to then focus on our next steps of being, let's look to see, make sure the major tasks that GTAC needs to do, the tasks and deliverables are done. Think about the time to do the work, because then that will then determine, is that a full GTAC thing? Is it a subcommittee we'll eventually need to do? And then once we have those solidly in place, let's put the timings on there so that we can figure out if we're being strategic about how we're using our meeting time.
Yep, I think you said that well.
Okay. I'm like, yes, I love the work planning people. I'm a planner, so I'm like, yes. Yeah. The planning Friday vibe. All right, Money.
Yeah, hey y'all, great to see you. Sorry I missed the meeting earlier this week. It's really cool to see what's already been done. I just want this document to be not something that gets dust on it, and it's something that we kind of refer back to and is most likely iterative. So if we go the Gantt chart route, like Zach is suggesting, which is great, I just +1 to what Zach is saying. I should know why we're having certain city staff come in each time, but I don't know because I cannot. It's just the overload of information that I am not as, you know, this is my own, like, my bad of not knowing the timeline of things that are coming up. But to Terry's point of having this advice column to engagement column, engagement to me is like rolling basis. Advice column, if we really want to be serving the community in the best way of understanding what are critical points in the city's transition, to know we really should have a community meeting before this decision is made, to get the input, to bring that to the staff when they're coming in on October 20th. So I just want it to be a functional tool that we're all able to go back to. And when we get lost in our work, that we all agree, and maybe this is like a new working agreement, go back to the work plan to stay focused and on task of what we should be doing. That was my like hope and aspirations with creating this document.
Yes, kind of the being able to find yourself and the work and knowing that it's being done within the next 15 months. Okay, Bill.
I think Terry and Manny have referred to it, but I think the important aspect of this plan is going to be the timeline, or the Gantt chart, because I think the value is it should tell the reader what the various responsibilities, or I mean, tell our GTAC colleagues what our various responsibilities are and the timeline for doing it. I know I'm getting a little ahead of where we're looking at the plan here, but but I think the point is it needs to be organized so that the reader knows what the responsibilities are and the timeline for doing it.
All right, great, y'all. I think this will be it's important for this to be actionable. And I agree, not collecting dust. And so I think maybe it's an ask to the co-chairs to have it as a sort of constant, maybe even opening for the meeting of where we are, where we're going, would be just let's check on the, be able to look at that Gantt chart and orient ourselves every single time we have a meeting. So thank you all. Very excited. Okay, so I feel like community engagement, that was one that we kind of were able to talk about a little bit more last time. So I think here the question as we look at this is are there any major tasks that are missing here? This probably would all go into the community education / engagement column versus the advice.
Win has.
Oh, Win.
Yeah.
I can figure out how to unmute myself. I'm not sure where this fits, but particularly after the release of the draft organization chart, a lot of the rumblings that we're hearing at the league are about what's executive, what's legislative, how are day-to-day powers allocated between the council and the mayor? How does the mayor lead the city when it's not through the chief administrative officer? It seems that both we and the people we talk to have lived in many different cities, have seen many different models, and have all kinds of assumptions about what our elected councilors will be able to do, and what the executive will be able to do. And they're used to the notion that their elected official will go and tell a staff member what to do. Others assume that when you have a city administrator, it's taboo for a legislative body person to give direction, because they're not doing that. And so I think if somewhere early in your work program, you might think about suggesting what you think, or what somebody thinks, or what the city attorney thinks the answers to some of these questions are, and what some of the possible visions are, because there's really a lot of confusion out there. And in fact, in truth, lack of definition. This is creation as much as discovery.
Thank you. And I think that that really aligns into the feedback around community education and being able to answer questions around the council mayor structure, and then also be able to identify areas of engagement or places that are still open for influence. So thank you for kind of giving that sort of guide of what you're hearing folks are interested in. And so I guess then also back to the community engagement portion, are there any other sort of major tasks here that you feel like are missing? This is really lifted off the community engagement plan, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one's like, nope, that looks fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I just noted that the tasks and deliverables under community engagement seem to be all ongoing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. And it's easily adaptable to future conditions. So,
Great.
Yep, I definitely think that's true, Terry. This is basically just the background work that we're doing across the board, and then what I see be through the rest is kind of like the content for which we both get understanding of and how we reflect it into that community engagement, which again goes back to the the reality that we have that communication community engagement, like the timeline I think helps try to, it might be actually of good service in identifying times in which we need to get that information from these other buckets. But it makes sense that they're like two separate documents essentially.
Great. Okay. All right. I'm going to move us on then and try to see if we can keep this to 5 minutes because this one's a little bit shorter. So this was sort of the section for Bill. Bill, do you want to talk a little bit to folks about this, and then we'll see if there's any other major tasks that are missing?
Okay, thanks, June. My first comment was on, the first goal, engage and support employees. I could read that to mean we are supposed to directly engage the employees and confer with them and, get feedback. Or, more narrower alternative is reviewing and giving comments to the mayor or, to council. I think it's the latter, based on the tasks or deliverables, but I sought clarification.
I think this is a piece that was lifted off the transition engagement plan. So I think it's up to GTAC to interpret that. And I think in your role and what you bring, it seems like defining it as reviewing and providing recommendations on sort of employee related strategies. I think we should go that route because I think this is also about what you all interpret as the best use of your skills and your time.
Could I also suggest, I personally feel like there might be some level of stifling of feedback, I guess, or not making transparent the feedback that exists from city employees to executive leadership that maybe generated the organizational chart, for example, and the desire that the public has to understand what inputs went into those decisions. And so perhaps one of these tasks and deliverables for B would be to create a platform, or maybe it's even just a letter to city employees that suggests that they can connect with us by public comment or whatever, or some way of specifically calling out this role where they can share how they themselves as employees, but also as community members of Portland's should see the city look like in the future. So that could be a deliverable that we could request literally at our next meeting, right? Like sending an email to all city employees through the transition team that says, hey, GTAC has heard, and I don't know if this is something that I've only kind of interpreted from hearing from the community, but like a desire to know what inputs went into the organizational chart. And I think one way would be through hearing from staff, what they think of the organizational chart and how they would like to see it improved.
So I wrote sort of just all the things that you said, but here the major tasks sort of generally being for city, I guess. I guess I was hearing two things, Zach. So I just want to get clarity. One was like it seemed like an ask to be able to tell staff like, hey, if you have any concerns that you need sort of like lifted up, like you could also come to GTAC with public comment was one. And then the other thing that I heard is like, one of those things that we've already been hearing is that folks wanting to understand what went into putting the org chart together. So are those, am I hearing that right?
You are. I guess I wasn't thinking of them as two separate things. Because I think the inference is if we don't hear any feedback, then it would suggest that the concerns or the vision that employees shared were reflected in the organizational chart. I mean, I realize that that's a pretty major inference because it could be also a signal that there's like management repression of sharing that information. But I choose not to be that pessimistic.
So I guess generally I'm hearing, okay, we want to let staff know that this is a forum they can bring up concerns that they don't think are being heard or they don't feel safe sharing in the way the outlets that we put out there. And if it is shared, part of what GTAC can do is follow up on those. And so kind of like the request for information to understand what the, like kind of where we got to. Okay. And then Bill.
Zach, I had a question for you. I'm just thinking, I asked whether you're contemplating that city staff could submit comments confidentially or anonymously. I don't think they can do it confidentially because we're part of the public record. Anonymously is a possibility, but is that something that you're in your proposal here? I mean, you know,
yeah, no, I was definitely not thinking confidential. Like we're a public body, nothing is going to be confidential. But mainly it was like allowing them to provide anonymous contact input, and or if they are comfortable, you know, assigning their name to it, to share both positive and critical feedback about, you know, the organizational chart. And you know, because right now it's just like an unknown about the inputs and also just like how they're feeling because it's all being filtered through, you know, CAO Jordan and the transition team, which, you know, is appropriate, but we're as a public body trying to elevate feedback in a way that, you know, if the public sees concerns that service delivery is going to be affected, like they want to be able to know that so that they can champion that concern.
All right, so then we'll Terry's comment, and then we'll end to see if Mubby or Money you had anything else to add before we move on. Okay, go Terry.
Yeah, just somewhat related to this, and change management is not my thing, and I don't understand it largely. But in skimming the plan, you know, they have all these categories of people doing change management work, you know, trusted ambassadors and things like that, you know, and we should, I think what Zach might be saying more broadly is that we should be one of those people somewhere in the change management team for employees to come to or hear from, or all of that stuff. I mean, something that Bill said in an earlier meeting, that this is like a sort of the same, but sort of not the same. Bill said in an earlier meeting that change management applies probably also to the community, not just employees, when it comes to government changing and how that's going to work. And I think it would be interesting to see what the change management plan would look like if GTAC were fully embedded in it, if only for the reason that it's change management in the community too. But that's maybe something else.
No, I appreciate that comment. I think, Bill, to your point, when you had talked about change in the community as well, it's a insightful comment also because I just been hearing our staff say it after you kind of sent that out. So appreciate that. I think what might be responsive to that is number 4 in here, which is volunteers to participate in this employee engagement advisory group. So the change management team, they're putting that together and they're asking maybe we have 1 or 2 GTAC members who might have the capacity to sit on that and provide advice, and then maybe that chain of learning from what's going on there, etc., being able to be this some of these folks where if they're not feeling like they can bring things to that they could bring this stuff to would work. So and in the interest of sort of moving on, I'm wondering if Bill and Zach, we could just save your comments for when I send this out again. You could to keep that. And then just check in really quick with Mubby and Money if you feel if you wanted to say anything else before we moved on.
I have nothing else to add. I think what everybody has said and what is there is pretty straightforward.
Same for me.
Okay. All right, Terry, you are on for this next one, governance, including expansion of council, blah, 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 council operations.
Yeah, let me get organized here. Yeah, I just added some over in the comments, some other things that we should be doing on expansion of council and districts. And there are going to be more policy choices in future operations, I guess. The current code that they adopted is not going to be the code that the council works from. So we still have work to do in their policy choices to be made. So I added engagement with candidates on these policy choices. I think it would be interesting to see what they think as they're running for office, what they think the council should be doing. So engagement with candidates, engagement with the general public, council, stakeholders, auditor, etc., on what the policy choices are and should be. And then I think we should participate and help participate when those policy choices are being written into code in part of the boot camp for the candidates who get elected. And that training and designing that training, doing that training, participating. Those are all tasks and deliverables. And that subcommittee hasn't met yet, so I didn't want to step on their brainstorming. So I just kind of offer these as placeholders. If that makes sense.
Thanks, Terry. Does anyone have any questions for some of the things that he put forth, or think that anything they had ideas that kind of came up for what you think GTAC scope should be in regards to this section?
I'll just say, I added the thing that's with asterisks about it's just in the creation of a recommended schedule for the first couple of months of city council, the new council. I mean, I think that's clearly aspirational, but we're going to be privy to a lot of the questions, the unanswered, unaddressed questions of how council operates and how this functioning of the executive office and that kind of thing. And so it might be useful to provide sort of a suggested template of what work sessions they should have. So they're just going to have a whole lot more attention, public attention, and if they held a work session, it gives them an opportunity to think about policy of how to improve the internal work, and yeah, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Thanks, Zach. Terry?
Yeah, I agree with Zach to the extent that we could pull that off. I'm not sure anyone would let us. But this is an area that I'm really worried about, because so far it's been the the staff bureaucracy in the executive branch designing this work. Um, and I'm really concerned sometimes when I hear about what they think the council should be doing and how they should be doing it. There's a separation of powers thing that gets my ear up in the back of my neck, and I just I'm really concerned about it because I don't see it the priorities aligning with the bureaucracy right now. The thing that you don't hear anyone talking about is the role of oversight in the council, and how that's going to happen under the new system. You don't hear that coming out of the bureaucracy, and I think that's telling. So anyway, that's high horse soapbox done, but that's where I'm coming from.
Thanks, Terry. I mean, I think the things that you added here, Zach and Terry, they seem strong, and let's just add it into the work plan. And I think right, we're guiding based on how this also really impacts the public. So I think it's fine to just put it in here in our draft. And then y'all said this is iterative, and as priorities kind of come up, then this is a way to see what's on the board and then kind of be like, yes, no. So let's just leave them there. And so I think I'm gonna move us on because I think we could probably have time for 2 more sections, and then I really want to hear what you all think it's going to take to kind of get this ready for the committee and sort of the work that the transition staff also needs to do to support this plan. So Mavi, I'm gonna pass it to you around voter ed. Oh, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry. I'm still not used to unmuting and muting. Yeah, so I apologize. I kind of took a glance at this and didn't have much time to really dive deeper than what I wanted to. So this might be a little bit of more group participation. But one of the things that that did stand out for me was under the task and deliverables, the co-develop existing channel for voter education. Who is developing that? Is that outside of GTAC? Is that, who's working on it? And when they're mentioning like co-develop, are they going to rely on us coming up in terms of as GTAC for us to come up with the channel? And then figuring out, that was something that kind of stood out for me, like who's doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question because the voter education campaign is gonna be like, we're gonna talk about it on Tuesday, but there are like lots of actors involved. And so when I had talked to Sophia, what she was thinking was in terms of the existing channel. So for us, when we talk about existing channel, we're just the regular the normal outlets that the government has access to be able to like provide voter education, things like what Multnomah County already does, and using those existing strategies to give folks information about ranked choice voting. And so the idea here is that we would ask the voter education subcommittee from GTAC to be able to like look at the strategy that's put out there, provide recommendations, advice on that strategy that the city would be taking the lead on putting. Well, it is sort of tasked with doing. Is that helpful?
Yes.
A little bit, kind of, yeah.
It's a little bit helpful. So yeah, that was something that I definitely stood out for me. I think the other, which I'm not sure it's on here, but Wynn mentioned it earlier in terms of when it comes to organization, in educating the voter and how it's going to work, I think it would definitely help if they knew they had a little bit better of a description of who is doing what. So yeah.
So that role clarity
That
is important. for this.
Yeah, just, I mean, I think it definitely needs to be defined, because I think that, you know, even throughout, just in conversations that I have had with folks, they're still unsure about ranked choice voting, and, you know, what does that mean, and what role will each individual play? I think it was Zach. Zach, were you the one who created that pamphlet and shared it with GTAC, with the group?
I shared that like
Or was it
slide
slide
deck. Yeah. I still have a desire to do like some kind of pamphlet, but I mean honestly that probably should be better suited for the subcommittee to develop. Like we could have a you know, essentially the creation of a take home information sheet, like a trifold, or I don't know what it would be, but getting to Molly's point, like it's not just an education of how ranked choice voting works, but also like a informing and like clarity about authority too. Like I think people are gonna probably default to what they assume they know, which may not be factually accurate. Like if they've come from a city with a strong mayor or things of that nature, like the mayor is not making policy in this new form of government.
So kind of just to make sure I'm getting this right, is like when we talk about education, it's also related to we're voting in new folks and what do they do, and kind of like is that sort of what you're kind of getting at, both Mavi and Zach?
Yes, for me it is. Because I think it's very,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Zach, sorry.
You were like, my internet, I guess, was a little bit unstable, June, but what I heard, I just want to make sure it's informing the like candidates as much as it's also informing the voters, right? Like we need, like in a perfect world, I don't have to spend a whole bunch of time speaking about like ranked choice voting and making gaffes because and then like spending a bunch of time trying to like further explain it and point people to a website. It should be something that they could just immediately take home and you know have that, but also like again like utilizing the existing community engagement and information tools that probably the Charter Commission was using about an explanation of authority and like who's going to be accountable, that kind of thing.
Right, I think that's good. Maybe so sort of the task there would be around kind of these materials that would support the voter education piece that go beyond just ranked choice voting. And the subcommittee sort of having a hand in that. Anybody else have anything to add in terms of major tasks that might be missing from voter education?
I just want to make sure, like, the one thing I've been a little bit challenged with on this, like, task deliverables is that they sometimes don't feel concrete. So, like, with the number 9 or something, yeah, the material, like, development of a material is like a concrete thing that we can, like, say, okay, subcommittee, you need to turn this around.
Yes, and I will also apologize because my thought process of just like cleaning it up later is like, oh, let's clean this up and make it a little bit more actionable. Which I think kind of, so this is sort of an exercise that we could do for the rest of these pieces. Wow, y'all did some great work on this. So we could also do a lot of this offline because I know we only have 10 minutes left, but because I'm really interested in sort of what you all think would be to get to the finish line for this. So something that I can do is we can leave this open for anyone to make any additional comments for major tasks that they think are missing from the transition project budget, the mayor/city administrator tasks, and then just definitions and measures of success. So once we get that information from you all, I guess I have an idea of maybe how we can get to the finish line, but I guess I'm curious what you all think of we need to do. I want to kind of bring it back to something the beginning of the conversation that we had talked about, where Money and Zach had talked about, okay, so we need to kind of figure out what the major tasks that we're doing, make sure we feel pretty solid about it. Oh my gosh, hello. Sorry, I'm just so happy right now. And then we need to really figure out, okay, how much, like, when does this happen? And then we can kind of use that as a tool for GTAC to kind of look at its work and understand whether this should be assigned to a subcommittee or a work group, et cetera, or the full committee. So, after me reiterating my notes, does anyone have want to reflect back what they think we should be doing to kind of get this to the finish line?
I didn't raise my hand. My bad.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Money.
Go for it.
Sorry. And just to remind me, it sounds like the last meeting, everybody was assigned a certain section,
Mm-hmm.
and then and every section was accounted for.
No, well, not all of them, but it was so I think at this point I would probably just take this and be like, all right, you have until X date to provide any other major tasks that are missing before we then clean up to the next stages you all think we should go through.
Okay. I don't have suggestions on the, I mean, yeah, like we have 8 minutes, so I think we have to do more offline work as my initial kind of response. I'm happy to jump into a section that needs more help or work partner with somebody to work on. And I think there's been really good conversation on each section, so I don't want to limit that. And we were kind of rushing to get through the whole document. So the community engagement piece is like one of our biggest roles, and I feel like there could be more to discuss on that, along with the other things. So more time, I guess, is I think we had when talking to Leah, had the goal of having this all ready for the next full GTAC meeting, but I don't think there's no point of rushing this. I think this is really important so we can get it right. And again, I just want it to be, I guess it's just the way I think about work too. If you get lost in the work and there's all these shiny objects that come your way, and you can just go back to this plan to stay on the path. And it could be helpful to the community as well to just see, okay, this is what they're focusing on, and this is where I can engage with them. So I don't know if that was helpful.
I think so. So I mean, I see a lot of head nods for like, okay, let's spend a little bit more time together. We don't have to rush to get to the final draft. We're definitely not going to get there on October 3rd. But hopefully by the end of October we will. So that's kind of some of the major takeaways is let's continue to strive forward to use this as a document we can all kind of use as our North Star. Let's give this the time it needs to discuss and move forward on. So with those points taken, let's go to Bill and then Zach.
And those are good points. My question, maybe I'm missing something. I don't, see a timeline, and I think is what's going to define accountability. If we have a timeline for different deliverables, or I think using Zach's term or adjective, concrete steps that we're going to do and when. I mean, that will be a challenge to do, but that will create the measure, the measuring stick by which we can measure progress. Otherwise, the tasks are more aspirational.
Thanks, Bill. I agree. Let's put some time on there, make sure the timing is right. Because for engagement, timing is critical because I can engage folks, but I have nothing can't do anything with it, then what's the point? And then so Zach.
So I'm just gonna throw out a suggestion of how we go about this. I fully agree with what Money's saying about wanting to like do this a little bit more methodically and not try to rush this. One clarifying question is the meeting on Tuesday, are we creating the subcommittees, and when will those subcommittees be starting? Because I want to make sure that we can like, you know, talk about this work plan and what we think the subcommittees are doing before they start meeting. I don't know if you have an answer to that.
I think the committee wants to hear from you all what you might propose you need. So,
Okay.
for example, you could just be like, on the October 17th meeting, we'll feel pretty good about the scopes to be able to move forward with the 2 subcommittees. So that's what we'll do on the 17th. Could be.
Got it. Okay. So maybe we set ourselves up to be successful, like shoot for October 17th to have this ready to go, that we can kind of do a proposal. And between now and then, what we could do is like partner up. I fully agree with what Maya is saying, like going through this process of like talking it through is super valuable and useful to just like gut check our reactions. So we like team up on each of these, and then with a focus of trying to identify something more concrete, or then like using this third column as putting like a time range or a specific deliverable date that can then be like a thing to discuss. But that would be all of the ingredients, I think, to make a Gantt chart, or to do like what I think is a pretty informative work plan.
I think a GTech Gantt chart would be a gift, and the rest of the committee would be very excited about it. So this is the proposal that Zach has, which is, correct me if I'm wrong too, Zach, is for Tuesday's meeting, tell folks that for the work plan work group, the idea is to be able to have a draft work plan ready by the 17th, which then would be when you would want to advance the subcommittees motion. And then between now and probably before the 17th, probably the 10th, right? So just within a week, if folks can buddy up and then be assigned a specific section to review, to be part of the draft work plan that's advanced. And included in that is not only looking at the major tasks and deliverables, but putting dates on there, which I think also that is something that I can fill out sort of the milestones that we're working towards, so that you all can kind of put realistic times on when you want those tasks to be done.
I think that's right. And then I just would ask that we utilize the reviewing feature so that there's like inline editing, so we don't we know who it's coming from, so that we can ask like, hey, if we need more information. It just facilitates the discourse a little bit in my experience. So it sounds like the other thing I was thinking of, so between the 10th and the 17th, we should also try to find another time where this little work group can convene again and just like check have we crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's kind of thing? Do we agree with the suggestions of the buddied teams?
I think that's a really great suggestion. I can do a doodle poll to do that, and have folks kind of also follow-up email that signs up to review certain sections, so we know we have 2, and then you all can coordinate yourselves to do the review, and also I'll put the time that the major deadlines that are associated with that. And then I think what I might do is schedule a 2-hour meeting for our meeting, because this 1-hour stuff is not giving us what we need. So then we'll have maybe 1-2 hour meeting before the October 17th meeting to be able to say, okay, this is our draft work plan that we're going to bring to that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, we want to take time for 2 hours, but I also want to make sure that people who are working have an opportunity to participate. So if we're going to do 2 hours, I would say we should consider like after working hours or something, but I don't know how other people feel. I just know that like we didn't have Destiny today, probably because she's working.
Yeah. Destiny had to, her office had power outage, so she couldn't technically do that. But let's try to do an hour and a half maybe then instead, to not make it so burdensome. And then I'll send out a doodle poll and try to get as many folks as possible. Y'all are awesome. This was a great Friday meeting, especially because there's a baby in our meeting. Okay.
So can I say for the partnering, can we just use the row that has the E or what, like E, D, like just have like people's names. So like if I want to work on this for C, like I write my name, and so we'd have make sure that we have 2 names for each of those. I don't know, like, because I realize we haven't assigned ourselves to things, and it's already one.
Yeah. I think we should do that. How about let's just spend the next 2 minutes. Can folks go over 2 minutes? Okay, let's be realistic. 3. Okay, can you put your name similar to what Zach has done? I need to share my screen. Am I sharing? And I not know it? No. Let's see. So if folks, if you can assign yourself what you're interested in for each section, just please put your name sort of like Zach has done. And if there's already 2 people, try to find a different one. And then for sections that don't have anybody, I'm gonna ask individuals if they would consider being on point for that. So what I'll do is, yeah, so, I mean, I don't have to watch you all do this. You don't have to watch each other, but please, if you can, before you leave your seat, I don't know, it's up to you. If you could just, assign yourself to 1 or 2 of these sections. Sound good? Well,
Are you asking us to go to the work plan and do it now?
yes. And I think Zach put the link in the chat. So if you can just assign yourself now, and then for the gaps that we have, I'll go in and do some specific asks based on what I've heard your interests might be. So
I'll be a number 2 on everything.
all right, Terry, if we need to fill in gaps, you're on. All right, I'll leave you all to it.
Hey, June, sorry, last comment, just on the length of the meetings. Sorry, obviously distracted right now. I would just say, I'm hoping we can do some offline work, and then that the actual meeting time would be tight. That's what I want to invite others to consider, just to be efficient with everybody's time. That's absolutely valuable on the committee. So I don't know, maybe we can challenge ourselves and we can do it in an hour. It's just a little bumpy right now because it's the first time we're kind of talking about everything, but I feel like we have a good charge for the next time we meet up.
I like that challenge. I see a thumbs up. All right, let's go for 1 hour for our other meeting, and then we'll all sort of do that work into the offline work to feel prepared and efficient to go and get this done. Look at those Friday faces. I think this is great. So I will leave you all to it and then do some of the follow-up coordination work on Monday. And until then, I will see you all maybe on Tuesday And if you need anything, you can email me. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Philip.
Thank you.